Ever wonder how the Army stays ahead in this crazy world of like rapidly changing tech?
It's a challenge for sure.
We're going to be diving deep today into this draft document outlining
I know the one.
the Army's marketplace for the acquisition of professional services.
It's a mouthful.
It is a mouthful, but think of it as like a cheat sheet
Okay.
to understanding what the Army's looking for
Yeah,
over the next few years.
absolutely.
And this isn't just about, tanks and missiles. This is about the brain power of wing the force.
That's what's so fascinating about this document. The Army's really recognizing that, like, knowledge itself is a key asset.
Right.
And this document breaks down this need into, like, 5 huge areas.
Okay.
So there's the technical services, research and development, management and advisory services, and then the high-level IT services and low-level IT services.
So 5 major areas.
5 huge buckets.
That's a lot to cover. But let's start with
Let's dive in.
something that sounds kind of like
Grounded.
Yeah, technical services. What's the core focus here?
Well, it's all about practical applications.
Okay.
So think engineering and logistics, but with like a real-world problem-solving edge. For example, they're looking for people who can do like these manufacturing readiness assessments.
Oh, okay.
So basically evaluating if potential suppliers can really deliver what the Army needs.
Oh, so it's like
No more vaporware.
no more smoke and mirrors.
Exactly.
Like, is this company
Yeah, can they actually do it?
legit?
Right.
That makes sense. You don't want to get stuck with a bunch of
Empty promises.
empty promises, right?
Yeah.
But what about this technology insertion
Oh, that's interesting.
thing I saw?
Yeah.
That sounds like they're trying to like plug new tech into like existing systems.
All
Is
right.
that even possible?
It's not just possible. It's becoming essential.
Really?
Think about trying to like upgrade a tank's targeting system
Oh, wow.
in the middle of a deployment.
Yeah.
Technology insertion is about making that process like smooth, efficient, and effective.
It's like maximizing what you already have.
Exactly.
Not necessarily always going out and getting the new thing.
Not always starting from scratch.
So it's not just about the new tech itself, but how seamlessly it integrates with
everything else.
everything else. Yeah.
Precisely.
I like that word.
And speaking of seamless integration,
Okay.
they also mention interoperability a lot in here.
Okay.
That's about making sure all the different software systems, like everything from logistics to intelligence, can talk to each other without any hiccups.
Oh, so it's like making sure a tank crew can get real-time intel from like a drone overhead.
That's a perfect example.
Even though those two systems were probably built by totally different companies.
Yeah, it's all about getting them to play nicely together.
Right.
In a complex organization like the Army, smooth data flow can be the difference between mission success and failure.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And this isn't just about weapon systems either.
Right.
Think about coordinating like medical evacuations or managing supplies across vast distances.
Okay, so much data.
So much data. Yeah,
So many moving pieces.
absolutely.
Okay, so we've talked about the practical side of things with technical services, but the document also goes deep on research and development.
Oh, yeah, RDT&E.
RDT&E, as they call it. What stood out to you there?
Well, they're very deliberate about this distinction between basic and applied research,
Okay.
which I find really interesting. So basic research is about pushing the boundaries of knowledge, exploring fundamental concepts without a specific application in mind.
Kind of like, let's see what happens when we do this.
Yeah, exactly.
Just pure science.
Yeah.
But then applied research swoops in and says, okay, cool, but how do we use this, right?
Precisely.
So it's like that bridge between the two.
Yeah.
Between the theoretical and the practical.
It takes those basic discoveries and tries to find practical solutions for the Army.
So that could be anything from developing new lightweight armor materials to figuring out how to power vehicles with renewable energy.
Right.
Things like that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then there's this whole world of modeling and simulation.
Oh, yeah, that sounds like something straight out of a video game.
Well, it's not that far off.
Really?
It's all about building these virtual environments
Okay.
to test ideas and concepts
Yeah.
before you spend millions on building a physical prototype.
Smart.
Right. So you can like tweak designs, swap out materials, even simulate like entire battles
Oh, wow.
to see how new tech would perform under pressure.
So less trial and error, more virtual trial runs.
Exactly.
Interesting.
And that faster iteration cycle, is crucial in today's world.
Yeah.
It means getting new technologies into the field quicker,
Right.
which can be like a decisive advantage.
And in the world of defense.
Especially in the military.
That speed is key.
Absolutely.
So we've got virtual testing with modeling and simulation, but at some point, you've got to build the real thing right.
Of course.
That's where prototyping and fabrication support comes in.
Exactly. Think of it as bridging the gap between the digital world and the physical world.
So you've got your virtual design.
Right.
But now you need to turn it into like a tangible prototype.
Right. Something you can hold.
That you can actually test and evaluate.
Exactly.
So that involves everything from like 3D printing to software development to building these entire systems from scratch.
You got it.
Wow. So it's a lot more than just tinkering in a workshop.
Yeah, it's serious business.
You need a wide range of expertise.
Oh, absolutely.
To bring these prototypes to life.
It takes engineers, technicians, software developers, even like subject matter experts who can weigh in on like the specific needs of the prototype.
Okay, so we've covered technical services, which is about putting knowledge into action.
RDT&E, which is pushing the boundaries of what's possible.
Right.
But this document also goes into management and advisory services.
Oh, yeah.
And I have to admit, when I saw this section, I was kind of surprised by how broad it is.
It's really quite remarkable. I think it just highlights the fact that like the Army is at its core a massive and complex organization.
It's like running a small city.
In many ways it is.
And so they need
top-notch management and advisory support
to function.
To keep everything running smoothly.
Yeah, it's not always glamorous.
Not always the most exciting part.
But it's absolutely essential.
But it's the glue that holds it all together.
And that of all the services listed in this section, one that caught my eye was risk management.
Oh, interesting.
Why is that such a big deal for the Army?
Well, in any complex operation, but especially in the military, you're dealing with a lot of unknowns.
That's true.
And risk management is about anticipating those potential problems.
Assessing their likelihood and figuring out how to mitigate those risks.
So it's about being proactive, not reactive. Absolutely. Not just waiting for something bad to happen.
No, you got to get ahead of it.
You got to see it coming.
Absolutely.
Okay, so it's not just about dealing with problems when they arise, but trying to prevent them.
Prevent them from happening in the first place.
In the first place, yeah.
Thinking ahead, analyzing potential threats.
Yeah.
Having plans in place to deal with whatever comes your way.
Wow, now that's some serious brain power.
Yeah, it takes a certain skill set.
Okay, let's shift gears and dive into the world of IT.
All right, let's do it.
So the document breaks this down into two categories.
Okay.
High-level IT services and low-level IT services.
Got it.
First up, the high-level stuff.
Right, the exciting stuff.
This is where it gets interesting.
Yeah.
I'm seeing things like...
Hear it.
Intelligent automation.
Oh, yeah?
Cloud services. Even quantum computing.
Now we're talking.
This is where things start to sound like sci-fi.
It's getting futuristic.
It really is.
Definitely cutting edge.
So intelligent automation.
Yeah.
That's about harnessing AI to automate tasks that used to require human intelligence.
So like analyzing huge amounts of data.
Yeah.
Making complex decisions.
Things that would take humans forever to do.
Precisely.
And AI can do it much quicker.
In a fraction of the time.
Yeah.
It's about freeing up human personnel.
Yeah.
To focus on more like strategic tasks.
The things that computers can't do yet.
Right.
And then there's cloud services. Which is about moving away from traditional IT infrastructure.
Right.
And towards this more flexible, scalable model where data and applications are hosted in these massive data centers.
The cloud.
A cloud.
Accessed over the internet.
That sounds familiar.
It's everywhere these days.
It's like how we use cloud storage for our photos and documents.
Exactly.
Except on a much larger scale.
Just a bit bigger.
Just a bit.
Yeah.
So the Army's embracing that same trend.
They are.
Recognizing the advantages of cloud computing for things like data storage, cybersecurity, collaboration.
It's the future of IT infrastructure.
And then there's quantum computing.
All right.
Which, to be honest, still sounds a bit like magic to me.
That's pretty mind-bending stuff.
So quantum computing is still in its early stages.
Still early days.
But it has the potential to, like, revolutionize computing as we know it.
It really does.
So imagine a computer that can be in multiple states at the same time.
Okay.
Exploring all possible solutions.
Simultaneously.
So instead of working through problems like step by step, it can tackle everything at once.
That's the power of quantum.
And that makes it incredibly powerful for certain types of problems.
Oh, yeah.
That are, like, currently impossible.
For even the most powerful supercomputers.
Wow.
Think about things like breaking complex encryption codes.
Oh, yeah.
Designing entirely new materials. Or optimizing logistics on a global scale.
The possibilities are pretty astounding.
It's truly revolutionary.
So high-level IT services is all about pushing the boundaries,
pushing the limits
of what's technologically possible.
Absolutely.
But what about the other side of the coin, low-level IT services?
Oh.
Is that where things get a little more, well...
Mundane. Perhaps.
Yeah.
But don't underestimate the importance of these services.
Okay.
Think of it as the foundation upon which all those high-level systems operate.
Yeah.
Because what good is a supercomputer if the network crashes?
Or the computers go down.
Right, exactly. And that's where things like help desk support and IT management services come in.
Yeah, those are the people we rely on every day.
The unsung heroes of the IT world.
They're the ones making sure everything runs smoothly.
Keeping the lights on.
And then there's independent verification and validation.
IV&V.
IV&V.
That sounds pretty intense.
That does sound intense.
It's a crucial quality control measure.
Okay.
Basically, it means having an independent third party come in and rigorously assess the quality of the system.
Yeah. Okay.
Or a piece of software. They're making sure it meets all the required standards.
Yeah.
And performs as expected.
So it's like a final check to make sure everything is up to snuff.
Precisely.
Before it's deployed.
Before it goes out into the field.
It's about ensuring that the Army's IT systems are...
reliable,
secure,
effective.
And in a world where those systems are increasingly vital...
Oh, absolutely.
That kind of quality control is essential.
Mission critical.
Right, because the stakes are so high.
The stakes are higher than ever.
Okay, and finally we have network systems, operation, and maintenance.
Yeah, keeping the whole thing running.
This is about keeping that entire IT infrastructure up and running.
It's all the behind-the-scenes work.
That most people never think about.
But it's absolutely essential for the Army's operations.
So we're talking about monitoring the network, applying security patches, performing backups, troubleshooting issues.
Keeping everything humming along.
So it's like the plumbing and electrical work.
Of the IT world. You don't
really appreciate it until something goes wrong.
Right.
But when the network goes down, everybody suddenly realizes how much we rely on those systems.
Well, we've covered a lot of ground here.
We have.
From the very practical to the mind-bogglingly complex.
It's a lot to take in.
It really is.
Yeah.
But it's clear that the Army is taking this very holistic approach.
They are.
Investing in everything from the cutting-edge technologies to the essential services that keep everything running smoothly.
It's about having all the pieces in place.
It's really impressive.
It is a forward-thinking approach.
We've still got a lot to unpack here.
We do.
Especially when it comes to the potential impact of all these technologies and services.
Yeah, we've only scratched the surface.
But before we dive deeper, let's take a moment
to
let all this information sink in.
Good idea. You know what's striking about this document is the interconnectedness of all these different areas.
Yeah.
It's not just a bunch of separate services.
Right. It's an entire ecosystem of knowledge and expertise.
Yeah, it's like they're building this brain trust.
They are.
Bringing together all these different disciplines to tackle the challenges of the future.
That's the idea.
Yeah.
And that kind of cross-disciplinary approach is going to be crucial. For the Army to adapt and thrive in this world. That's changing faster than ever.
Okay, so let's zoom in on a few specific areas that I found particularly interesting.
Okay.
We were talking about research and development before.
Yeah, RDT&E.
That whole concept of modeling and simulation, it sounds like a game changer for how the Army designs and tests new technologies.
Well, it absolutely is.
Yeah.
In the past, developing new weapons systems or military technologies, it was a long and expensive process.
Talk about time-consuming and costly.
Full of trial and error.
Yeah.
You'd build these physical prototypes, test them in the field.
Yeah.
And often you'd have to go back to the drawing board multiple times.
So much wasted time and money. But with modeling and simulation, they can create these virtual environments.
With the virtual sandbox.
To test out different designs and scenarios without the expense and risk of building those physical prototypes.
Exactly.
So imagine designing a new type of drone.
Okay.
And being able to test its aerodynamics, its stealth capabilities, even its performance in different weather conditions.
All within this virtual environment.
So they can run all sorts of what-if scenarios and see how all these different variables affect the outcome.
Exactly.
Before committing to building anything.
It's all about mitigating risk.
Smart.
They can tweak designs, test different materials, and even simulate entire combat scenarios.
Oh, wow.
To see how those technologies would perform in real-world conditions.
That's incredible.
It's powerful stuff.
It's like having a giant high-tech sandbox where you can experiment without any real-world consequences.
No risk of blowing anything up.
Exactly. Yeah. No wonder the Army's so excited about this. It's a game changer.
But at some point, you do have to move from that virtual world to the real world.
Of course, at some point, you have to build the real thing.
Yeah.
Modeling and simulation are great for testing and refining ideas, but eventually you need to build something tangible.
Okay.
And that's where prototyping and fabrication support comes in.
So it's about taking those digital designs and turning them into physical objects that you can put through their paces in the real world.
Exactly.
Okay.
Think of it as the makerspace.
The makerspace.
Of the Army's research and development efforts.
I like that.
It's where those virtual designs come to life.
And that can involve everything from 3D printing and machining parts to developing like custom software and electronics.
It really runs the gamut.
Wow.
Prototyping isn't just about building hardware.
Okay.
It's about bringing together a diverse team of experts to create these functional representations of new technologies.
Speaking of diverse teams, let's shift gears for a moment.
And talk about something that's increasingly important in today's world.
Yeah.
Cybersecurity.
You're absolute.
With all this emphasis on advanced technology. The Army must be facing some serious cybersecurity challenges.
The document makes it very clear that cybersecurity is a top priority for them.
Yeah.
They're thinking about it at every level.
Okay.
From the design of individual systems to the overall architecture of their networks.
Because trying to add security measures, as an afterthought, is never as effective as building them in from the ground up.
Exactly. You got to bake it in from the beginning.
Yeah.
And the threats they're facing are constantly evolving too.
Oh, yeah.
We're not just talking about lone hackers trying to steal data anymore.
Right.
We're talking about sophisticated nation-state actors, criminal organizations, even hacktivists.
All trying to exploit vulnerabilities in the Army systems.
It's a constant battle.
So it's a constant arms race.
It really is.
To stay ahead of the bad guys.
And that's why the Army's investing so heavily in a wide range of cybersecurity services.
Yeah.
So everything from penetration testing and vulnerability assessments to incident response and threat intelligence.
So they're not just reacting to threats. They're proactively hunting for them.
Exactly.
And trying to anticipate what's coming next.
It's all about being proactive.
It's like they're playing a game of chess.
That's a good analogy.
They're always thinking several moves ahead.
You got to think like the adversary.
And they're doing that not just to protect their own networks, but also to safeguard those increasingly sophisticated weapons system, communication systems, and logistics systems that they rely on.
It's all connected.
Yeah.
Because a cyber attack could cripple a tank just as effectively as a physical weapon these days.
Wow, that's a scary thought.
Yeah. Cybersecurity is no longer just an IT issue.
It's a national security issue.
It's a top priority.
Okay, so from virtual battlefields to the front lines of cyber warfare.
We've covered a lot. Yeah. Now let's dive into something that really pushes the boundaries of what we think is possible.
Let's do it.
Quantum computing.
Okay.
You mentioned it earlier, and I have to admit, it's still a bit mind-blowing to me.
It's definitely mind-bending.
So quantum computing is fundamentally different from classical computing.
It is a completely different paradigm.
Yeah.
Instead of bits, which can be either a 0 or a 1.
Yeah.
Quantum computers use these things called qubits, which can be both 0 and 1 simultaneously.
It's like they can be in two places at once.
It's like superposition.
Yeah.
They can be in multiple states at the same time.
Okay.
And this allows them to perform calculations in a way that defies our classical understanding of physics.
So it's like having a computer that can explore multiple possibilities
simultaneously
at the same time.
Exactly.
Wow.
And that opens up a whole new world of possibilities.
For example, quantum computers could potentially break the encryption algorithms that protect our online communications today. That's one of the potential applications.
That's both exciting and a little scary.
It is a double-edged sword.
Yeah.
But the potential benefits are enormous.
Yeah.
Imagine using quantum computers to design completely new camouflage materials.
Oh, wow.
That are invisible to even the most advanced sensors.
Invisible cloaking devices.
Or to develop drugs that target diseases at a molecular level.
Okay.
With incredible precision.
So for the Army specifically, What are some of the ways they could use this technology?
The possibilities are pretty vast.
Okay.
They could use quantum computers to design like new materials for armor or weapon systems, to optimize logistics and supply chains on a global scale.
Yeah.
To improve the accuracy of targeting systems.
Wow.
Or even to create like unbreakable encryption algorithms.
Okay, so quantum computing is definitely something to keep an eye on in the coming years.
It's a game changer.
It sounds like it could be a real game changer for the Army.
It has the potential to revolutionize warfare as we know it. But it's important to remember that it's still early days.
Yeah.
There are a lot of technical challenges to overcome before quantum computers become mainstream.
So we've talked about some of the most exciting and potentially disruptive areas of this contract, but we shouldn't forget about the importance of those foundational IT services that keep everything running smoothly.
The nuts and bolts.
We were talking about independent verification and validation, IV&V, earlier.
Yeah, IV&V.
Why is this so important for the Army?
Well, IV&V is all about ensuring that the Army's IT systems are reliable, secure, and effective.
Okay.
It's like having a dedicated team of experts whose sole job is to poke holes in everything, to find any weaknesses or vulnerabilities before they can be exploited.
So it's like a quality control check on steroids.
That's a good way to put it.
Think about it. The Army relies on its IT systems for everything.
Right.
From communication and intelligence to logistics and weapons control.
Yes, it's all connected.
If those systems fail, the consequences could be catastrophic.
It's mission critical.
And it makes the role of IV&V even more critical.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's about having an independent, objective assessment of the Army's systems.
Yeah.
To ensure that they're as robust and reliable as possible.
And it's not just about testing the systems themselves.
No.
It's also about verifying the processes used to develop and maintain those systems.
It's about the whole life cycle.
So it's a holistic approach to quality assurance.
Exactly.
They're not just looking for bugs in the code.
Yeah.
They're looking for weaknesses in the entire development process.
You got to look at the big picture.
Yeah.
And that's essential for building trust and confidence in the Army's IT systems.
Okay, so IV&V is all about ensuring the quality and reliability of the Army's IT systems. Yeah. But what about the day-to-day tasks of keeping those systems up and running?
That's where network systems operation and maintenance comes in.
This is the unseen but essential work that keeps that entire IT infrastructure humming along.
Exactly.
It's about monitoring the network for problems, applying security patches, performing backups, troubleshooting issues, making sure everything is working as it should.
Keeping the lights on.
So it's like the circulatory system of a living organism.
I like that analogy.
It's constantly working in the background.
Yeah.
Keeping everything flowing.
Keeping the data moving.
And just like with the circulatory system, you don't really appreciate it until something goes wrong.
That's when people start to panic.
When the network goes down or the email server crashes.
Right, exactly.
Everybody suddenly realizes just how much we rely on those systems.
It's easy to take those things for granted until they're gone.
Yeah.
And that's why network systems operation and maintenance is so crucial.
Yeah.
It's about preventing those disruptions from happening in the first place and ensuring that the Army's IT infrastructure is always available and reliable.
So we've gone from the cutting edge of quantum computing to the nitty-gritty of IT maintenance.
It's all part of the big picture.
And what's striking is how all of these areas, from research and development to management and IT, are interwoven.
They all play a critical role.
They all play a critical role in the Army's overall mission.
It's really impressive to see how the Army is thinking about the future.
Yeah.
And preparing for the challenges ahead. They're investing in both the cutting edge technologies and the essential services that will allow them to adapt and thrive in this rapidly changing world.
Well, we've covered a lot of ground today.
We have.
And I feel like we've only scratched the surface.
There's always more to explore.
But before we wrap up our deep dive,
okay,
let's take another quick pause to let all this information sink in.
That was good.
All right, so we've spent this deep dive exploring this massive Army contract.
It's huge.
And it's clear they're thinking about everything.
Yeah.
From the nuts and bolts support.
To mind-blowing future tech.
They're covering all the bases.
It's a fascinating roadmap, really.
It is.
And it highlights how knowledge-based services are becoming absolutely vital in the military.
Yeah, it's not just about brute force anymore.
It's not just about having the biggest guns anymore. It's about having the smartest strategies, the most adaptable systems, and people who can, like, think ahead of the curve.
Exactly.
So it's about anticipating threats, solving complex problems, and constantly innovating.
To stay one step ahead.
So looking back at everything we've discussed, what would you say are like the biggest takeaways for our listeners?
Okay.
What's the so what of all this?
Well, for me, the key takeaway is that the Army is leaning into the future. Full speed ahead.
Yeah.
They're investing in technologies that sound like science fiction. Artificial intelligence, cloud computing, even quantum computing. Because they recognize that these technologies will be essential
for maintaining a strategic advantage.
It's like they're building the army of tomorrow.
They are.
Yeah.
But they're not just focused on the flashy new toys, right?
Right. They're also laser focused on those foundational IT services. We talked about.
Absolutely.
Cybersecurity, data management, all that behind the scenes work.
The essential stuff.
That's crucial for success in this digital age.
It's about balance.
Yeah.
You need both.
It's like building a house.
Okay.
You need a strong foundation before you can add all the fancy features.
That's a great analogy.
So this contract shows they're taking this holistic approach.
They are.
Investing in both the cutting edge and the essential elements that'll allow them to function effectively.
To operate at the highest level.
So this is all well and good for the Army.
Yeah.
But what does it mean for someone who's not in the military?
That's a great question.
Why should they care about this massive contract?
Well, I think there are a few reasons why this is relevant even for folks outside the military.
Okay.
First, it gives us a glimpse into the future of technology.
Okay.
The things the Army is investing in today are likely to become mainstream in the civilian world tomorrow.
So it's like a sneak peek at what's coming down the pipeline.
Exactly.
What our everyday lives might look like in a few years. It's
a window into the future.
And second, this contract highlights the importance of certain skills.
Like what?
Like critical thinking, problem-solving, adaptability.
Oh, yeah. Those are essential.
Those are going to be in high demand in any field, military or civilian.
Absolutely.
So it's not just about learning a specific technical skill.
Right.
It's about developing a mindset.
A way of thinking.
That will allow you to thrive in a world that's constantly changing.
Exactly. You got to be adaptable.
And finally, I think this contract is a reminder that the world is becoming increasingly complex and interconnected.
The challenges the Army is facing today, from cybersecurity threats to the rapid pace of technological change. Those are challenges we're all facing.
In one way or another.
Right.
So even though this is an Army contract, it speaks to these broader trends
that are shaping the world around us.
Yeah, it's a wake-up call in a way.
It is.
Telling us to pay attention and get ready for what's coming.
The future is coming whether we're ready or not.
We've covered a lot of ground in this deep dive.
We have?
But I think you've hit on the most important takeaway.
Okay.
The future is coming fast.
It is.
And it's going to be shaped by technology in ways we can only begin to imagine.
It's both exciting and a little daunting.
Whether you're in the military, the private sector, or just a curious citizen, it's essential to stay informed.
Yeah.
To be adaptable and to never stop learning.
Absolutely.
Because in a world of rapid change, knowledge truly is power.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
And if this deep dive has sparked your curiosity, I encourage you to explore further.
Yeah.
Dive into those areas that piqued your interest. Ask questions and stay engaged.
The future is ours to shape.
The future is ours to shape. And it all starts with knowledge.
So keep learning, keep exploring, and join us again next time for another deep dive into this fascinating world of information and ideas.
Until then, stay curious.